happen. So I thank Rock and Roll Harley Davidson for supporting this event and why it means a lot to all of us. So yeah, let's thank it as well. And again, you know, I think everyone understands you're not coming here because of me, you're not coming because of Monica, you're coming because we're going to read off 283 names of young men and women who didn't come home to their families. The Gold Star families, there are a few today that are actually going to read their son and daughter's name, Bob Gilbert, Donna Squires. But as they always say, you're only forgotten when you don't hear your name read ever again. But we want to make sure that those 283 from Ohio, 7,000 nationally, who lost their lives in Iraq or Afghanistan are never forgotten. And your support means a lot to those families who are here today, who will be reading their son or daughter's names. I will put a quick put in for my firefighters ride. We do have a firefighters ride coming up this year. Again, because of COVID, it's going to be a little different format. I'm going to try and put together a cops ride in July. I think they need our support now more than ever. And then we're going to have a 9/11 event this year. There's a group that from the Cleveland area that did Flags for Honor. One of the gentlemen that actually is responsible for it, actually here, Dale, put your hand up for a second. He's right in the front row. He actually helped donate 400 flags last year for 9/11. And this year, Dale's talking about trying to do 1,000 flags. If you have a chance, look up flagsforhonor.org. It's an important event. It'll be done over the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and we hope you will support it. Other than that, thank you very much for showing up. Thanks.
Thanks. A lot of the proceeds that we're trying to put together, by the way, we still have pins available too, they'll be inside. They're gonna benefit an agency, the Cleveland American Veterans Association, and here to talk more about it and explain what it is, please welcome Molly Carlin.
Thank you, Monica. We're here today to honor our military veterans and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. The Cleveland American Veterans Association honors our veterans by our services in the local veteran community. One of the many services we provide is searching out veterans who served during World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. If the veteran has passed, we want to find their surviving spouse. The Department of Veterans Affairs has a little-known benefit called Aid in Attendance. It's a non-service connected, tax-free monthly benefit that pays cash directly to the claimant that is then to be used for their care. They can use it for home health care, assisted living, and they can even pay a family member with that money. As an example, for a married veteran, the monthly benefit is almost $2,300. The benefit to the surviving spouse is over $1,200 monthly. When Social Security increases, this benefit increases by the same percentage. These funds are life-altering in many cases. All the family needs to do is to gather some basic information, and our staff does the rest. An accredited veteran service officer completes all of the VA forms, taking that burden off of the family. So I would ask, if you know of any senior wartime veterans that we could help, please send them our way. We're going to switch gears a little. In the year 2013, we were approached by the VA to participate in a pilot program. Our part in this program was to provide furnishings to veterans transitioning out of homelessness. I'm happy to say it was a success, and we continue the program to this day on our own. These are men and women who have served our country honorably and have fallen on some hard times. We have 2 storage units. We collect furniture, kitchenware, pots, pans, linens, that we then deliver to the veteran who finally is able to have a place of their own. We were blessed this year when another organization gifted us a 17-foot box truck. In the past 2 months alone, we've delivered to 11 veterans. We brought it in and set it up. We're grateful to assist in turning their house into a home. Since our inception in 2009, CAVA has helped over 3,000 veteran families. We are a totally volunteer organization. We have no payroll. We have never, nor will we ever, charge for any of our services. I want to thank everyone involved in organizing this rally today, and especially want to thank John Kickle for all of the rallies you've organized throughout the years. Your efforts are bringing much needed awareness to issues that mandate attention. Thank you for allowing me to share our mission with you. God bless you, and pray for our troops.
Molly, thank you so much. I want to point something out. John kind of outed me and told you I was from Pittsburgh. The reason I came to Cleveland was to take care of my dad, who was a veteran, and he was still living in Pittsburgh. And believe me when I tell you, I went through my savings. I, basically got wiped out financially trying to take care of his care, trying to drive back and forth from Cleveland to Pittsburgh. I applied for that VA grant that Molly is talking about, and it literally saved us. It got my dad into a really good facility, and then when he needed it, I brought him to Cleveland, and he went to the Brecksville, what was then the Brecksville VA Center. So I cannot personally thank you for everything that you do, and please, anyone, if you need that help, find her organization, and use it, because I know how difficult it is right now. We also told you earlier that we have some Gold Star families here, and one of them I'm so happy to see yet again. He comes almost every year. Please welcome Robert Gilbert. He is a proud Gold Star father of Marine Gunnery Sergeant Robert Gilbert II.
Thank you, Monica. Good afternoon, Cleveland, and welcome to the 18th post-COVID rally for the troops. I am Robert Gilbert Sr. from Richfield and the proud Gold Star father, as Monica said, of Marshal Marine Gunnery Sergeant Robert L. Gilbert. I want to first thank all of the veterans who are present in this audience today for being a veteran. With that, we have our freedom. It is said of our American veterans that all gave some, but some gave all. My son, Gunnery Sergeant Robert Gilbert, was serving as an Operations and Intelligence Staff non-commissioned officer, Marine Special Operations Team, Marine Special Operations Golf Company, 2nd Marine Special Operations Battalion, United States Marine Corps Forces, and was mortally wounded March 8, 2010, on his 5th deployment overseas. Gunnery Sergeant Robert died on his 28th birthday, March 16, 2010, from his injuries while in combat in the country of Afghanistan. It was said by our late President, John F. Kennedy, ask not what you can do for your country. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Gunnery Sergeant Robert answered that question when he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps in 2000, right out of Revere High School. Gunnery Sergeant Robert never looked back at the second enlistment. After 8 years of service, Robert came to me and said, "Dad, I can't imagine doing anything else." Gunnery Sergeant Robert loved America and believed in fighting for our freedom, no matter where he was deployed. In his sealed letter to me that was left on a dresser, Robert accepted the fact that it might someday cost him his life for the freedom of the United States of America. However, as an adult, Robert was not only my son, but was a good friend. Robert's mother died when he was 9, so there was Robert, Ruth Ann, his older sister, and myself. However, during holidays and some liberties from the United States Marine Corps, Robert and I would travel on our motorcycles, we would drink a few beers, we would smoke a few cigars, and we would take in a few gentlemen's club. I'm certain there's not many of you out there that did that with your father, because I never did. The dedication of our men and women in the U.S. military is a great reflection of their character. However, during the Vietnam War conflict, a soldier's sacrifice was not recognized by America properly. This rally that John and others organized is a way to thank all of the veterans, no matter where the conflict, for your service and sacrifice to this great country, America. Thank you for the participation that you came here today for the 18th annual. God bless America.
Bob, thank you so much. Now would you please welcome Stephen Wilson, Outreach Coordinator in Communication and External Affairs Service at the VA.
How's everybody doing today? All right, so every time I have to talk at one of these events, it's really hard. There's 1,000 things I want to say. As I represent the VA and VA Northeast Ohio healthcare system, there's a lot of previous experiences that older veterans had from Vietnam, negative experiences. Obviously, I can't discount that. And I've talked about this before, and anybody that I talk to now, I will tell that, I can't go back and change what happened to you when you came back or in the past before I was born, but we can do everything that we can now to change the perception of the VA. So this is a little cringy for me, but I just tell you this because I want you to know that, you know, I know where you're coming from if you're a veteran and you're dealing with issues and you need help. So I did 9 years, and most of them in the 82nd Airborne Division, 3 deployments, got 2 Purple Hearts. My coworker back there did 1 deployment, I think 1 with the 101st Airborne Division, which isn't as good as a unit as the 82nd Airborne. And then my other coworker was psychological operations and also received a Purple Heart. So I tell you this because if you look at the VA and you watch the news and you listen to the barracks lawyers, that's what we called them when we were in the Army, the people that think that they understand the situation but never really went out and tried to get the help, just reach out to us. There's 3 guys, and I know this for a fact, there's 3 of us that will help you. We understand the process of getting enrolled with VA, filing claims, getting help, getting counseling. I mean, counseling it's one of those things. When I was in the 82nd, I got out as a staff sergeant, and you couldn't get counseling because you were a leader, and if you were a leader, you couldn't be weak, and it was frowned upon. So there are things out there. We want to help you. Just reach out to us. We know all these groups, to file claims with service commissions. We have all these resources, and it can seem like a huge task if you don't know all these things. The VA is huge, and you can feel a little bit helpless. So I'm going to give you. I'm going to be leaving in a little while. I'm moving down to Florida, where it's not like this. So I'm going to give you guys a phone number. So this phone number will ring at 2 desks. And it will be my desk and my coworkers. If you guys ever need anything, reach out to us. Please leave a voicemail, and we will call you back. And more importantly, so less for you because nobody's pulling out their phone, but if you meet a veteran that needs help and you're just trying to connect them with someone, just give them this phone number. So I'm gonna give an awkward 5-second pause so everybody can start doing this. All right, so 216-791-3800, and that's an automated number, and this is my extension, 65610. Just call us, let us know what you need help with. Whatever the case is, we work there, so I kind of think of us as like a water main into a house. So you have one line that comes in, then it splits into 20 directions, and we're that split. We can tell you where to go. Even further, one of our biggest things that we're doing right now is working with Blue Water, Vietnam, and Camp Lejeune veterans. So there was a big disconnect. There was a law that was passed in January 2000 where they extended the Agent Orange eligibility to veterans that were within 12 nautical miles of Vietnam, primarily in the Navy. Some people that served in Thailand at the Air Force bases there, and then on the DMZ, so anywhere that they used Agent Orange. A lot of veterans don't know about this, and it's not just for the veteran, but it's for the veteran's loved one. If a veteran passes away from one of these conditions and they have a wife and they get service connected for it, the wife is then taken care of financially for the rest of her life. So there's a lot of important stuff out there, and it takes more than 5 minutes to talk about it all, but that's what I'm trying to say is use us as a resource. Just give us a call, let us help you out. We are veterans too, and we've gone through the same system with filing claims and getting health care and counseling, so we can help you out. So thank you for coming, and it was a pleasure sort of meeting everybody. Oh, I'm going to give the number again, just in case anybody didn't have their phone number or their phone out. So 216-791-3800, and then don't listen to the prompt and stuff. It's just extension 65610. All right, thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Stephen. All right, we have another speaker we were just thrilled to be able to add on. Donna Squires, come on up.
Good afternoon. I'm a Gold Star mother. My youngest son was killed in Iraq on June 9, 2005. I want to thank all of you for being here and supporting our troops. June 9, 2005, a day that became very personal to me when 2 Marines came to my door. My family and I vowed that not just Brad, but all the men and women from Ohio who gave their lives for this country would not be forgotten. Brad is with us every day. My family holds emptiness in our hearts that is difficult to comprehend. We are so blessed to live in a country where anyone can become a hero, where anyone can make a difference, and where anyone can serve their country. This brings us to our final heroes of today, our U.S. military, law enforcement, fire and paramedics, medical staff, doctors, nurses, and all the healthcare providers and their staff. Those are our heroes. As Lee Greenwood put it into his song, I'm proud to be an American, and I'm so very proud of our heroes who gave the ultimate sacrifice and who daily hold the line and protect the great country of ours. God bless America, the greatest nation of them all, the United States. Freedom is not free. Thank you again.
Thank you, Donna. At this time, we are going to read the names of Ohio's fallen from Iraq and Afghanistan, and then the Strongsville VFW Post 3345 will play taps and do a 21-gun salute, and then Cleveland firefighter Rick Schwenning of the Cleveland Firefighter Pipes and Drums will play Amazing Grace. I know this is going to take a little bit of time, folks, but please, this is why we're here. So please don't leave, don't start your bikes up until we're through with all of these names. Thank you. Sergeant Charles L. Adkins, Sergeant Justin B. Allen, Corporal Nathan R. Anderson, Sergeant Joseph J. Andre Jr., Private First Class David C. Armstrong, Corporal David R. Baker, Sergeant Jesse M. Balthaser, Colonel Dominic R. Baragona, Sergeant Michael C. Barkey, Airman Eric M. Barnes, Sergeant Jeremy D. Barnett, Specialist Todd M. Bates, Specialist Joseph A. Bauer, Colonel Thomas P. Belkoffer, Corporal Timothy M. Bell, Jr., Sergeant Jason A. Benford, Sergeant Adam F. Benjamin, Corporal Eric J. Bernholtz, Specialist Ethan J. Biggers, Sergeant Benjamin W. Biskey, Specialist William S. Blevins, P.O. Raymond J. Border, Corporal Jeffrey A. Boscovich, Sergeant Elvis Borden, PFC Samuel R. Bowen, Sergeant Edward L. Brooks, Specialist Nicholas P. Brown, Sergeant Christopher Brown, Corporal Andrew D. Brownfield, Sergeant Jason E. Burkholder.
Private First Class Jesse R. Burridge, Private First Class Kenneth T. Butler, Junior Grade Stephen Virus, Colonel Mario D. Carrazzo, Sergeant Robert M. Carr, Sergeant Patrick R. Carroll, Corporal Nathan B. Carsey, Sergeant Nicholas A. Casey, Specialist Brett T. Christian, Sergeant David R. Christoff, Warrant Officer Theodore U. Church, Corporal Michael J. Cifuentes, Sergeant Brad A. Clemens, Corporal Peter J. Clore, Private First Class Gavin J. Colburn, Specialist Joseph P. Collette, Specialist Stephen D. Conover, Major Matthew G. Conti, Specialist Michael B. Cook Jr., Corporal Kevin M. Cornelius, Sergeant Robert B. Cowdrey, Specialist Jason N. Cox, Sergeant Daniel B. Crabtree, Corporal Wesley G. Davids, Corporal Brad D. Davis, Corporal Dustin A. Durga, Corporal Daniel N. DeYarman Jr., Corporal Benjamin C. Dillion, Private First Class Christopher R. Dixon, Corporal Derek C. Dixon, Specialist Jacob P. Dornerwind, Major Michael J. Donahue.
Sergeant Robert J. Dowdy, Corporal Stacy A. Dyden, Corporal Christopher J. Dyer, Sergeant Gary A. Eckert Jr., Corporal Robert F. Eckfield Jr., Warrant Officer Judy L. Igner, Major Joseph J. Ellis, Major Lucas W. Empsch, Sergeant Corey M. Enlich, Captain Sean L. English, Corporal Nicholas B. Erdy, First Class Bobby L. Estel, Corporal Jonathan E. Etterling, Major Michael L. Everts, Sergeant Sean D. Fannin, Sergeant Michael W. Fink Jr., Corporal Dustin R. Fitzgerald IV, Specialist David H. Ford, Captain Warren A. Frank, Specialist Daniel J. Friedman, Specialist Joseph M. Goodback Jr., Corporal Richard A. Gilbert Jr., my son, Gunnery Sergeant Robert L. Gilbert II, Sergeant Joseph S. Gear, Sergeant Seamus O. Gore, Corporal Todd J. Goodwin, Airman Alicia S. Good, Sergeant David W. Gordon, Specialist Zachary A. Grass, Major Michael L. Green, Corporal Jeremy R. Green, Private First Class Darren J. Grilla.
Warrant Officer James E. Groves III, Private First Class Zachary R. Gullett, Private First Class Christian D. Gertner, Corporal David R. Hall, Specialist Adam S. Hamilton, Sergeant Sean T. Hannon, Specialist Richard A. Hardy, Corporal Joshua S. Harmon, Sergeant Bradley J. Harper, Sergeant Bradley C. Hart, Specialist Robert P. Hartwick, Private Brandis P. Honert, Sergeant Omer T. Hawkins II, Corporal Randy M. Heck, Specialist Justin R. Helton, Corporal Jason J. Hernandez, Specialist Julie R. Hickey, Private First Class Timothy J. Hines Jr., Specialist Jeremy M. Hodge, Sergeant Justin F. Hoffman, Captain Dr. Roselle M. Hoffmaster, First Class Bradley S. Hughes, Sergeant John P. Hewling, Sergeant James P. Hunter, Sergeant Kendall N. Ivy II, Warrant Officer Rodney A. Jarvis, Specialist Gerald R. Jenkins, Private Adam R. Johnson, Sergeant Jeremiah W. Johnson, First Class Daryl Jones, Specialist Joshua D. Jones, Corporal Adam D. Jones.
Sergeant Dennis Kankler, Sergeant Michael Kashkush, Corporal Thomas Keeling, Sergeant Kevin Kessler, Corporal James Kimple, Sergeant Jonathan Kingman, Sergeant Lester Kinney II, Specialist Anthony Kinslow, Sergeant Keith Klein, Corporal Timothy Knight, Specialist Alan Knopp, Sergeant Adam Knox, Corporal David Kruder, Sergeant Matthew Kuglix, Sergeant Larry Coons Jr., Sergeant Sean Landris, Sergeant Brian Large, Sergeant Benjamin Lehman, First Lieutenant Weston Lee, Specialist Angel Lopez, Corporal Jason Lucas, Sergeant David Luff, Jr., Corporal Christopher Lyons, Private First Class Ryan Martin, Sergeant Jonathan Martin, Sergeant Robert Massarelli, Captain Matthew Mattingly, Sergeant Keith Maupin, Captain Joshua McClemmons, Sergeant William McDaniel, Corporal Joshua McDaniels, Sergeant Ricky McGinnis.
Corporal Daniel M. McGiver, Captain Michael J. Metters, Major Ramon J. Mendoza, Jr., Private First Class Nicholas E. Messmer, Private First Class Harrison J. Meyer, Sergeant Donald R. Mickler, Jr., Private First Class James H. Miller IV, Private Ryan E. Miller, Class Daniel E. Miller, Specialist Gregory J. Missman, Sergeant Curtis A. Mitchell, Captain David S. Mitchell, Corporal Brian P. Montgomery, Sergeant Richard L. Morgan, Jr., Specialist Donald S. Morrison, Sergeant Jeremy E. Murray, Specialist Zachary T. Myers, Sergeant Brian Naisman, Corporal Christian M. Neff, Private First Class Gavin L. Neighbor, Corporal Keith V. Nepsa, Specialist Alan Nolan, Specialist Kyle P. Norris, Corporal Andrew W. Nowaki, Sergeant Michael C. O'Neill, Sergeant Curtis A. Oakes, Private First Class Brandon F. Oberleitner, Specialist Charles E. Odoms II, Corporal Nicholas H. Olivas, Private First Class Kevin C. Ott, Captain Bart D. Owens, Sergeant Daniel J. Patron.
Corporal Samuel F. Pearson, Captain Dennis L. Pintor, Specialist Vincent J. Pomonte III, First Class Daniel J. Pratt, Corporal Taylor B. Krasinski, Corporal Kevin W. Prince, Sergeant Richard T. Hummel, Corporal Lucas T. Piate, Sergeant Richard P. Ramey, Private First Class Joshua A. Ramsey, Corporal Aaron H. Reed, Sergeant Aaron T. Reese, Sergeant Titus R. Reynolds, Private First Class Jeffrey L. Rice, Sergeant Jeffrey J. Reek, Specialist Joseph W. Riley, Private First Class Gustavo A. Rios Ordonez,
Sergeant James C. Robinson, Sergeant Nathaniel S. Rock, Private First Class Marlon T. Rockhold, Sergeant Gregory S. Rogers, Corporal Timothy D. Ruse, Captain Nicholas J. Romansky, Corporal David Menendez Ruiz, Lieutenant John M. Renkel, Lieutenant Michael L. Runyon, Lieutenant Christopher N. Rutherford, Lieutenant David E. Rylander, Private First Class Zachary S. Salmon, Specialist First Class Marco M. Sampson, Sergeant Kurt D. Schamberg, Corporal Daniel R. Sherry.
Sergeant Jonathan M. Schoolcraft III, Corporal Edward A. Schroeder II, Sergeant David A. Scott, Corporal Lucas C. Scott, Lieutenant Aaron N. Season, Corporal Devin P. Seymour, Sergeant Daniel M. Shepard, Private First Class Adam R. Shepard, Corporal Jeremy S. Schock, Private First Class Brandon U. Sloan, Corporal Michael J. Smith, Jr., Corporal Kevin S. Smith, Sergeant Shannon M. Smith, Sergeant Marco T. Smolsky, Specialist Jesse A. Snow, Sergeant Gordon G. Solomon, Major Kevin H. Sonnenberg, Private First Class Kenneth C. Solson, Private First Class Jacob D. Span, Private First Class Jason L. Sparks, Sergeant David L. Spicer, my son, Corporal Brad D. Squires, Major Michael D. Stover, Specialist Cody D. Suggs, Private First Class Robert A. Swanee, Captain Tyler P. Schweischer, Corporal Jacob A. Tate, Corporal Brian N. Taylor, Warrant Officer Christopher R. Thorwood, Sergeant Cameron H. Thomas, Sergeant Norman L. Tollett, Corporal Joseph A. Thompson.
Sergeant Luis Torres, Warrant Officer Brian Van Dusen, Specialist Alan J. Vanderberg, First Mate Yasubo Villa Carrasco, Sergeant Anthony M.K. Vinedge, Sergeant Justin T. Walsh, Sergeant Richard A. Walters Jr., Private Heath D. Warner, Sergeant Charles J. Webb, Corporal Robert F. Weber, Sergeant Robert H. West, Private First Class James P. White Jr., Lieutenant Ashley I. White, Sergeant Michael J. Wiggins, Corporal William B. Whitman.
Private Kiefer Wilhelm, Lieutenant Charles Wilkins, Corporal Andre Williams, Sergeant Wesley Williams, Specialist Damon Winkleman, Sergeant Zachary Wogler, Sergeant Mark Wazinski, Sergeant James Worcester, Corporal Terry Wright, Corporal Derek Wyatt, Corporal Paul Zanowick, Lieutenant Mirosevich Zilberman, Private First Class Nicholas E. Zimmer, Sergeant Sonny Zimmerman, Sergeant Kyle McKee, Private First Class Brandon Chrysler. Now would you please remove your caps as we have taps and firing to the 3 firing and then Amazing Grace.
Everyone, thank you so much for accompanying us and joining us for the 18th annual Rally for the Troops. Next year, we hope for a beautiful sunny day, maybe 80 degrees, and we'll be back at the Veterans Memorial downtown. That's our hope. For then, thank you all for coming out. Please, please, shiny sides up. Safe ride home, everybody. Take care.
As Monica mentioned, there still are some pins inside if you're interested in buying a pin. Thank you.